So today we're covering modules 18 through 20, sensation and perception. We're going to start by looking at these two pictures. If you look on the left and right, you should see two characters that are pretty familiar. On the left you have Batman, and on the right is Spider-Man. However, if I flip the photos, now you see something else, because there's a change in the foreground background and a different perspective of these images. So instead of Batman, you might recognize Penguin on the left. And on the right, instead of Spider-Man, you now recognize Green Goblin. So this chapter is really looking at our sensations, our perception, and how we can bias what's going on outside the world through how we interpret it. So you'll want to understand the difference between sensation and perception. We're going to talk about how vision is processed and perceived. And we're going to look in the book about how ear processes our sound, but I'm not going to go over that today in class. But you'll want to be familiar with all the other senses and how they occur. So looking at the basics, we're starting with sensation. Sensation is a process that occurs when receptors in the sense organs are activated. So eyes, ears, nose, skins, taste buds. Basically, the sensation is the physiological experience. So there's outside stimuli, and it is turning into neural signals in the brain. So it is the objective information as much as something can be objective. So you have these cells, and they're going to detect stimulus information and transmit it to the sensory nerves and the brains. Now, hopefully this is familiar to you. We talked about before how there are certain neurons that have very specific functions, and they only do this one thing. We talked about the somatosensory cortex and how this is where you're getting the transmission of these sensory nerves into the brain. And then it's a motor cortex that's going to send out that efferent transmission back to the body so that you can move. So remember, afferent is sensation, and then efferent is motor. Now, perception is how we are organizing and interpreting that information. So we're objectively receiving information, but we don't just intake it as it is. We interpret it at a more holistic level. So when you hear a song, you're not just hearing random noises. You can interpret a song. You can hear a song from Beyonce and recognize the song. And if you've heard it before, you can even predict what's going to come next in the lyrics, in the tone, because you interpret that as a holistic musical piece, not just as a bunch of random noise. So the purpose of sensation and perception is so that we can first sense what's going on around us, and we need to respond quickly and accurately to the events in the environment. So we have to not only experience what's going on, but we have to be able to identify it fast enough to help us survive. So if a car's coming at you and you hear the honks and you hear the noise of this large object moving towards you, it's not good enough for you to just recognize all those sensations, but for you to be able to organize and be like, holy crap, here comes a car. I'm going to get hit by a car, and then move out of the way is really important. For you to interpret it as a large car coming towards you is what saves your life. So doing something like that can improve your chance for survival. So there's 5 different senses, and they each have a different type of receptor that's taking in the information, and it relates to a specific sense organ. Now, this information should not be shocking you for the most part. Hopefully you know the basic 5 senses. You have vision, and that's using detection of light through the eyes. So that uses photoreceptors, and vision is the one we're really focusing on throughout this lecture, and it will be one that we'll probably emphasize both on the test and overall in this part or group of modules. Remember that when we talk about the brain, your visual cortex was like a third of your brain. So we really spend a lot of energy focusing on vision. Then we have hearing. This uses mechanical reception, detection of vibration in the ears. So it's basically sound waves that is entering our ears. And we are detecting that differently based on a bunch of different mechanisms. We have touch. This is another mechanical perception, but this one is based on pressure, and it's used through the skin. Then you have smell, which is a chemoreception. So obviously this is going to be chemical stimuli through the nose, right? We have olfactory senses, so we can smell the chemicals and recognize it. And then last, taste is another chemoreception with chemical, and that uses the tongue. So the tongue will also recognize different chemicals and then give us information based on what's being activated. So looking at a threshold, we have a threshold for our ability to sense something. So how much of a stimulus is necessary before we're able to detect it? So one type of threshold is called an absolute threshold. And this is the minimum amount of a stimulus that is needed for a person to detect it 50% of the time. So if you have your ringer turned off so quietly on your phone that you can only detect it 50% of the time, that would be the absolute threshold for that sound. Now, obviously, your absolute threshold can change with the environment, right? When you're in a movie theater, there might be a different level to which you're going to recognize it 50% of the time compared to if you're in Times Square. There's also differences at a personal level. So as you get older, that absolute threshold will increase. And there's actually even a little exercise that unfortunately I am not doing, but we will use something called Brain Games, and they have another episode that looks at this. And basically, as you get older, there is a certain level of noise that you can no longer hear. And it's very accurate predicting how old you are, basically by showing the different sounds and then saying, hey, if you're this old, you can now hear it. It's something you might want to check out. Also, as a side note, you could find what this threshold is and then use it on your phone. So if you wanted to let your phone go off in class without your teacher noticing, this is a good time to exploit that age difference and just use a tone that us older people can't hear. Though do not do that in my class, because I just told you the secret. Now the other type of threshold is called a difference threshold, or just noticeable difference. This is another threshold where you can tell the difference between two different stimuli. So can you detect the difference between two stimuli 50% of the time? So an example would be if you're holding two weights. At what difference in weight between the one in your left hand and the one in the right hand can you tell, okay, this one's heavier? And that would be the just noticeable difference. Now, what's interesting is there is a equation that can be used to detect a just noticeable difference because it's based on a ratio. So at high levels of a stimulus, you're going to need a much larger difference to recognize that there's a change than at a low level of a stimulus, in which case you'll only need a small change to recognize the difference. So for an example, if you're in a dark room and there's only two candles, then me adding another candle is going to be obvious to you. You will notice that I've added one candle when there's only two in the room. However, if I'm in a room with 20 candles, or you're in a room with 20 candles, and I add one more candle, you will not be able to tell that I have added one candle when there's already 120 in the room. So that's the idea of just noticeable difference. It depends on the ratio. Now, another type of threshold which is interesting and discussed is called subliminal perception. And this is the detection of information without conscious awareness. Why this is interesting is because it's actually not strong enough for us to recognize it, in the sense that we have a threshold for something to be consciously aware of. But the subliminal perception is not strong enough for us to be consciously aware. So it doesn't hit that threshold, but it still somehow gets processed. And this will tack on to what we talked about in our last class when we looked at the inattentional blindness. Or remember how something would change in the videos that I showed and you wouldn't notice it would change. So it's similar to that, only sometimes we actually are unconsciously aware that there's something happening. We just can't consciously recognize it. So you don't know you are perceiving it. There was actually this, not a myth, but there was this faux study that actually did not work as well, but there was a belief that it did function, and basically they subliminally primed this picture in a movie theater really fast. It said, "Hungry, eat popcorn." And then the theater argued that their popcorn sales increased. In fact, that didn't happen. However, there is a kernel of truth, no pun intended, to what they did, and there are other studies that shows if you account for other variables, the subliminal perception can have an effect on someone's behavior, and we're going to get to that. This idea of how we perceive something goes back to whether or not we want to organize information. So even if we're not consciously trying to interpret information holistically, it's really difficult for us not to do that. It's almost automatic that we will interpret things as one whole concept. So here's a small video. And the song should sound familiar because I am that old, but I think you'll know the song. But even if you don't, they're going to play it backwards. And it's really hard not to hear what words the screen is telling you the singers are saying. So first let me play it to give you an idea.